Welcome to Elevate, the masterclass where we dissect the elements of exceptional achievement and lifestyle design with a focus on personal growth and real estate investing. Now, here's your host, Tyler Chesser.
Elevate Nation, welcome back. This is Tyler Chesser. I'm so thankful to have you here, and I'm so blessed and grateful to be with my friend, Chad Romzek. Chad, how are you, sir?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I can't complain. You know what? There's a lot of crazy things happening in the world right now, but we choose how to react, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we're going to choose how to show up today, and I'm really excited about this, really excited to welcome you to the show, and really thrilled to be welcoming Elevate Nation back to the show because it's time to take it to another level. I have no doubt that we're going to do that today. And this is the show where our mission is to identify and apply how the best of the best raise the bar personally and professionally to achieve greatness in real estate and beyond. And this is where we're going to discuss the mindset, the habits, the routines, systems, tools, and the strategies, and so much more from those who are elevating to a life without limits so you can do more or even more, the same or even more for yourself. And this is a masterclass for leaders and those looking to achieve uncommon results and purposeful outcomes through real estate investing and ultimately in their lives, because real estate is just a vehicle. Business is just a vehicle. What we create in terms of systems are the vehicle towards creating what we want in our life. And that's what we're talking about here on this show. And if you appreciate what we're doing, subscribe to the show, give us a rating, a review. A 5-star rating is certainly helpful. Give us a review, and specifically, what are you applying in your life? What type of results are you seeing, and how are you elevating yourself? And so I want to thank you again for being here on the show, and I want to welcome you and introduce Chad Romzek, who is the creator and owner of Kick Ash Basket, a creative, energetic, and passionate entrepreneur specializing in solving problems with simple solutions. His background is mechanical engineering, project management, and operations leadership. He worked at 2 Fortune 500 companies in a greenfield startup business before embarking on a side hustle in the barbecue grilling industry. Chad and his wife, Tracy, started the Kick Ash Basket business from their garage in Neenah, Wisconsin back in 2014, and are now supplying grill accessories all over the United States and all over the Kick Ash planet. I love that. In 2017, Chad walked away from his corporate America 6-figure income because it didn't just make sense to keep going back to the cubicle. Now Chad and Tracy are kicking ash and making flames with over 7 figures in annual sales, and are starting to build wealth and freedom in the multifamily investing arena. Chad's life goal is to inspire people all over the world to shake that ash and light that fire. So what a fun bio, my friend. I love reading that. So tell me more about Chad behind the bio. Who is Chad Romzek as a man?
Who's Chad as a man? So I grew up in Michigan, a little town, Harbor Beach. Grew up kind of on a farm. My dad was actually a life insurance salesman, but we were always tinkering and having fun, and just I learned from my dad early on to be a fix-it man, and do what we can to be creative and build things. I got the engineering bug early in high school, actually, and kind of discovered that I'm kind of a creative person and I like to solve problems, and so that's kind of where it all started back in the farm in Michigan. Yeah.
That's awesome. So you got the engineering bug. I mean, was that something that you noticed in yourself growing up as a child, that you were someone who liked to build things, or how did that originate?
Yeah, I think so. And having the farm environment, even though we weren't like active farmers, we had a shop, and we're always fixing stuff around there. And then when I got into school, math and science were kind of, I'd say, fairly easy for me and whatnot. And then I just like to design stuff, actually. Yeah, sorry, no. I have to brag about my son. He's like crazy smart. He's already into calculus as the Calc 3 as a junior in high school. And honestly, I mean, back in the early 90s, I didn't know what calculus was until I went to college. Wow. So even though I was good in math and science, it's nothing compared to what these kids are doing today.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think I was fortunate to learn early on that I liked designing things and drawing things and solving problems, and that kind of helped set my path. As I went to college and went on, moved out west and whatnot, and yeah, so it's kind of an early blessing, I guess.
That's awesome.
Changing it up.
Yeah. And then you grew up and you became an engineer and sort of grew in corporate America.
You said
right?
I grew up. That's funny.
Oh, that's right. Forgot about that. You never grow up, right? That's awesome.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. I mean, you as you progressed, we'll say, didn't grow up. You went along your journey and sort of, became an engineer in corporate America. And was there a time where you started to get dissatisfied with that lifestyle, or was it really just a creative sort of following your own curiosity that gave you the option to look elsewhere, or how did that work?
Yeah. Here's how much time we got?
Everybody get comfortable here.
Okay. So my great grandfather worked for the Nestle Corporation in Ohio and in downstate Michigan. And when I was going off to college in 1991, 92 is when I headed off. He's like, man, find a great company like Nestle they'll take care of you and take care of your family, and you'll be set. You'll be set for life. He had the golden watch and all that stuff. And
yeah.
And so I'm like, wow, all right, that's interesting. So early on in college, like my sophomore year, I landed an internship or a co-op with a big company. They make toilet paper and diapers and stuff like that. Anyway, great company. Love them to death. I saw in that first term that, man, there were big layoffs and middle management and things. And I'm like, this isn't what Grandpa was talking about. So I kind of learned early that, all right, I got to do the best at everything I do. And, and be able to kind of make my own path in life and live where I want to live and do what I want to do. And so that was kind of one point where I was like, all right, I've got to follow what I want to do. So fast forwarding though to your question of how did you become an entrepreneur and that. So right out of college then, instead of going to work it was Kimberly-Clark Corporation. Man, they're taking care of us now, all kinds of toilet paper and good stuff like that. But
yeah, but you can't buy it anywhere.
Yeah, right. You got to know a guy.
Jeez.
So I actually went to work for the Boeing company, building airplanes right out of college. And there's another interesting place. It's like wonderful company to work with, cool projects. But if the cycle of the economy is down, there's not a lot to do. So I quickly became bored and actually ended up back at Kimberly-Clark out in Everett, Washington. And so that was, I decided, all right, I'll go back to making paper, working in that industry where I knew I wouldn't be bored. Lots of project management opportunities. So that's basically what I got into when I was out there, was working project management. So fast forward about 2006, it's like, all right, I'm working this every day. It's kind of, it's working out all right. But I had a friend who was leaving Kimberly-Clark in Everett, Washington. And I'm like, hey, where are you going? Why don't you take me with you? I don't even know what he's doing. But he told me, and he was actually going to a startup company to build modular homes. I'm like, that's interesting. And by modular, we're not talking the homes on chassis with wheels. We're talking stack them up like ridiculously solid Lego bricks and build 3-story hotels and things. We actually ended up building Holiday Inn Expresses. And so when I went to that company in 06 to 08, as the fifth employee, and it was, I wasn't the owner of the company, but I was close enough to start that bug and learn a lot. learn a lot about what not to do, but then also learn, all right, there's other ways to do things here. And, what can I do to move forward? So, so that's kind of where I really got the entrepreneurial bug, even though I wasn't the full leader in that business. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And, it sounds like, at least gave you a peek into what else may be possible, because I'm kind of like you and many of our listeners, we were always told to go to school, get good grades, get a good job, and get taken care of by the organization that you serve. And, I feel like that was probably sound advice at one point in time, but
absolutely,
I think the world changes, and obviously, the world has changed again. It continues to change, and perhaps even more rapidly. So, maybe it's like we shouldn't be mad at the advice, but we should look and say, well, how can we adapt? And it feels like that's what you're saying, is that you had to learn how to adapt. And so tell me about, when in that moment when you started to sort of peek into the options of what else is possible, was that also the simultaneous moment where you sort of drew your theoretical line in the sand and said, I'm going to do anything it takes to be extraordinary and to be, to live a life that's greater than average? Or did that ever occur to you? Or do you feel like you took another path, or was it a process?
Yeah, no, definitely a process, and definitely something I still had to grow into, because, I was still of the mindset of, all right, this is going to be awesome. I'm the fifth employee at this company. We're going to do great things. We've built a humongous factory, building walls with automated equipment and stuff like that. Really fun stuff. And so again, this was 06 to 08 when the housing market was doing what it did at that time. And basically at the end of 08, I ended up leaving there. And then the beginning of 09, they ended up closing down because they couldn't find customers in the market as it was at that time. So at that time, I'm like, all right, what do I do? Do I look for just another job? Do I, try to find somebody else? And I actually took the path of kind of least resistance, and Kimberly-Clark moved me back across the country, back to Wisconsin. And so I landed back here, got into operations management, operations leadership at a very large, successful factory here with Kimberly-Clark. And it was a struggle. It wasn't my thing. Didn't really enjoy the work, the stress, everything that comes with it. So fortunately, I was able to get into a position back in research and engineering, where I was able to more thrive with what I was, blessed with doing. And so that was kind of all right, this is good. And I got onto some really cool projects with the company at that time. So that was in about 2010 then. And also at that time is when I got my first grill, my first ceramic cooker grill. So there's a specific, it's not just a Weber gas grill or something like that. But that was when I got the first grill and found, all right, we've got a problem we need to solve here with this thing. And so that's when I'm like, all right, we can do something. So fast forward to Kick-Ash Basket, and that's when I was like, all right, there's more here. And then before getting into details with that, we actually, my wife and I, were toying around in a multi-level marketing company, like some people have probably done here and there.
Yeah.
Learned a lot. Again, actually got turned on to going and seeing Tony Robbins several times.
What kind of business was that?
It was multi-level market. So it was Team National was the company, and it was.
So you were doing network marketing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I wouldn't say I was doing it very well.
Yeah. You were not doing it very well?
Oh no. I wouldn't say
okay.
so. So working at Kimberly-Clark, trying to do the network marketing thing, figure out what's going on there. But that's when we got into the personal development type stuff, so
That's
Tony
awesome.
Robbins and, all the books, Rich Dad Poor Dad, even, Kiyosaki. And that was the book that I read that was like, all right, what's going on here?
That's a mind shifter.
Yeah. That's like, what are we teaching our kids again?
Exactly.
So anyway, that was kind of the point where, all right, I'm learning all about all this self-development stuff. I do have a great job in, project engineering, leadership, getting to, use my creative stuff. And then we landed with a coach that, we may be familiar with. His name is Trevor, and he's quite a guy. So we found Trevor in 2013. And that's where we were like, all right, what else can we do? What's out there? What are you thinking about that you could do something with? And I'm like, well, I got this basket thing that a lot of my buddies like. And that was a turning point of, all right, we could do something else. Don't know if it'll work. Gonna give it a try. And so now that's all we do.
Are you someone who's seriously looking to elevate your life, your business, your real estate portfolio, your cash flow, your deal opportunities, your access to opportunities, your network this year? Well, if that's you, then I invite you to visit coachwithtyler.com, because I'm currently opening up a few coaching spots for people like you who want to close the gap from where you are to where you want to be, and really, expand that beyond your wildest dreams and explode your business, explode your deal opportunities, explode your vision for what you're looking to create. If that's you, I invite you to visit coachwithtyler.com. I really have to tell you that this is not for everyone. This is only for those who are decisive. They're committed. They're willing to do whatever it takes. They're willing to invest time, energy, and resources into themselves to get to where they want to be and to live a life without limits, to elevate to a life without limits, which is really what we're all about on this show. If that is you, again, I invite you to visit coachwithtyler.com. Again, that's coachwithtyler.com.
So what did that, when you recognized that you had a potential, product there, did you recognize how successful it could be? Or did you think it was like, let's just try it out and, it may not work out? What was that whole thought process like?
Yeah, it was more of I think we're on to something, because, we went looking for something like it right away, back in 2010, actually.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if we're looking for this, other people are looking for this.
Mm-hmm.
And so there might be something here. Let's give it a try. Now, further to your question of, did we think we were really onto something that could be as successful as it has been? I don't know. I was just hoping we'd sell the first 100 that I bought, and I had no idea and was losing sleep. And now, even in this day and age, we're moving well over 100 a week.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I guess it's just for all of us, it's like a reminder to, as the kids say, shoot your shot, right? Because if you feel like you have an idea, a lot of the initial thoughts that people have is, well, somebody else probably had this idea too. And maybe they did, but they didn't act on it. They didn't put it in action. They didn't formulate and actually develop the plan. So how did that feel when you recognized that perhaps, maybe other people had thought about that? Maybe there was other consumers out there looking for an unfulfilled solution. But how did that feel as an individual who was seeking more, like you were seeking the personal development, you were seeking something different through multi-level marketing and whatever? What was that feeling like?
So it's almost freeing is the word I would choose. And so even before we got to the basket, the basket solution for charcoal, I think back to my conversation with my friend who was leaving Kimberly-Clark, and I'm thinking about going with them. I had to vet it a little bit, but it's that future pace thing, where you look at yourself 5 years in the future and you think, all right, would I kick myself in the butt for not doing this? And that to me is a huge thing. So that's kind of how I made my decision.
Walk us through that. I definitely want to not leave anybody behind on future pacing. So how did that exactly look for you?
Yeah. So and it's funny because Tony definitely talks about that quite a bit. And I think I had this thought even before talking with him, with my friend back in 2006. And just thinking about it with Tracy, it's like, all right, I've got this new opportunity. I've had some great opportunities with Boeing and Kimberly-Clark and, different stuff. And I just kind of, put myself in this place. All right, 5 years from now, would I look back and say, man, I regret not taking that shot, right? I regret not taking this opportunity, not taking this chance. And what's the worst that could happen? If you've got a successful career or you've got a successful business, can you come back and do something similar? And, I like to think I played things smart along the way. I didn't burn any bridges. And I, was, had good relations and things like that. So it's like, all right, this is something I definitely need to do. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, yeah. And it's really, it's just a great reminder for us all when we're making decisions. And as we have to adapt so rapidly in this type of, modern environment that we're in, we've always got to ask ourselves, what would our future self say if we did or did not make this decision? If we,
Right.
Committed to something, would we kick ourselves for not doing this? And then also, what's the worst that could happen? And I love, what Tim Ferriss talks about regarding fear setting is one of the things. He's like, all right, well, let's just think about the worst case scenario. What is the worst case scenario? How does that play out? And then once you kind of face that, it's like, oh, it's actually not as bad as I thought it was. Or if it was, what are the solutions for it? There's a solution for everything. So I just love the whole process that you're talking about here.
Yeah. Yeah. And you be smart about it too. So now we fast forward to 2013, 2014, after, meeting with Trevor and coming up with this idea. How do we make it something we can go to market with? And like, oh crap. Now I got to buy tooling, right? I got to, get this initial order. I got to buy 100 of these things to make them, a price that I think I can get my money back on, laying in bed and thinking, holy crap. Now I got, $5,000-$6,000 invested in this. I don't know if I'm going to sell any of them. But again, it's freeing because you're like, all right, it's, $5,000-$6,000, that's nothing to throw away, but it's not, mortgaging the house. And, so being smart about how we started, I think was a good thing as well. And then how we've grown the business as well is just, reinvesting and having some fun with it. So
yeah, well, and it required a lot of commitment, and it still required a certain amount of courage, to invest, $6,000. I mean, it's certainly not, the craziest amount of money, but it still can change sort of some dynamics from a personal perspective, as an individual. And so talk about that. I mean, talk about the courage that it took to dive in, and how long did you have to be courageous before it started to really pay off?
Yeah. So fortunately, my wife Tracy was right alongside me in the journey here, and the great thing was we both loved to cook for the family, so that's how we kind of came up with the idea, and she saw that there was a need as well right out of the gate. So that having her by my side helping out and stuff, that definitely made it a lot easier. And then getting into the first year, so we just started with a website and a Facebook page, just to keep it simple and just put it out there a little bit of time, see, hey, was anybody going to buy these things? But in the first year, I had to kick in a little bit more courage, because there's some blogs out there with the Big Green Egg guys, and they're kind of like Corvette Club guys, so very specific about their club and things like that, and so I finally got the courage one day to answer a question. One of the guys is having problems with his fire. He couldn't get his grill up to temperatures. And I'm like, that is the exact problem I was trying to solve. And we have a solution. So I got the courage up to make a post and say, hey, check this thing out. We've just launched it. Here's our Facebook page and whatnot. And I had, I had everything, but the majority of it was, damn, I wish I would have thought of that. So that's when we really knew we were onto something. But yeah, that took some courage. And, within the first year, we landed a couple retail stores, and, we're having a decent presence online. And then we had some key people find us, like my buddy Craig Tabor down in Atlanta. He found us early on, and he was one of the first guys that said, hey, this is a great idea. Do you mind if I tell my local store about you guys?
I guess you can. Yeah, that's fine.
That'd be all right. So, yeah.
That's awesome. So walk us through, the next stage of the growth process. I mean, and then obviously we'll want you to tell the listeners a little bit more about the product, but walk us through the next phase. So obviously the first stage is the idea, walking into figuring out, all right, there's demand for the idea, getting it in front of the customers. You've created the awareness, you've whetted the appetite. So now talk to me from a business perspective in terms of building your systems and building the engine to really service this in addition to your prospecting efforts. How did you grow that from a practical perspective?
Yeah. So this was, 2014, 15. So, and I was still working full time at Kimberly-Clark. So we definitely had to have processes in place. And fortunately, like I said, right away, Tracy was on board with, managing orders and, doing the books and things like that. And I could still focus on being the design guy, the creative side. So she's the manager side and I'm the creative side. So that definitely helped to have that in place out of the gates, to make sure we're keeping track of everything properly and whatnot. And then the other part that I really enjoyed was the social media side of it. So growing, through Facebook. I got introduced to Instagram early, and I think it was probably 2015 that we finally got into Instagram and stuff. And folks there are just, they love the food biz, and hey, this is a better way to light your charcoal and stuff like that. So it that's kind of how we started to grow. And honestly, is I call it the pork butt business plan, which is we're just growing her low and slow, baby. So that's what we did. We just kept reinvesting back in, as we, kind of got a foothold in one size of a grill. Folks started asking for other sizes and, hey, when's this coming up and whatnot. So we tried to reinvest back in. Back to your question on, prospecting and growing. A lot of it honestly was word of mouth. So being out there on Instagram and Facebook, people were seeing us. They're like, why isn't this in our local stores? So that was kind of our prospecting method was, hey, if it's a good idea, local stores will find us. And that's basically how we've grown, rather than pounding the pavement and me having to, go knock on doors and be on the phone all the time. We kind of let it grow very organically, which, in this day and age, that's a great place to be in. Yeah. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it grew it out.
No, that's cool. And it's really exciting because, one of the phrases that I'm so fond of that I've really come to really remind myself of so frequently is that if it's not sustainable, it's not successful. And yeah. I feel like that's really, as you mentioned, I love the phrase, the pork butt business plan, and, sort of slow smoking that thing slow and smoke, and kind of let it metastasize, let it be organic. Because that's really how you build that model and you reinvest and you show that you've got something that, the customers want and you can expand it without overextending yourself. I think there's, at least in some modern times, I feel like, it's all about let's scale as soon as possible, as quick as possible. And certainly that can work. And you've seen that, but it, seems to be a little bit of a much more long-term approach to do it the way that you've done it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got to have a love of the game too, right? Mm-hmm. So fortunately, this is something that we created because I love to cook for friends and family, and I just wanted to be able to do it more efficiently and effectively. So then you get into the business, and I'm doing stuff that I love. I'm cooking and grilling and taking great pictures and posting it out there. So it's kind of, a self-perpetuating deal that, I'm into something that I truly love, so we're obviously blessed having that aspect of it. And, it makes it kind of fun too.
That's awesome. Well, and this is exactly what the show is all about, is elevating to a life without limits, whether it's through real estate or whether it's through creating a business or whether it's through, being creative and creating products, and obviously giving yourself the opportunity to further reinvest in those products and in those systems, in those businesses, and in real estate as well, which I know that you also invest in real estate. And so tell me, what has this given you in your life? I mean, obviously it's given you a passion that you can love and enjoy while you're, creating practicality for yourself and for your family. But what else has this given you in your life?
Yeah, it's kind of allowed us to design a life, right? I mean, when we got into this, then we started to, take vacations around the grilling business. So I'll never forget one of the first grill events we went to was actually down in your neck of the woods, down in Kentucky. And it was called Grills Gone Wild.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it was grilling, all cooking and everything.
The I and the R may have been mixed up. I don't know. I think you go to all of those type of events.
Oh, yeah. It's good fun. But the very first one we went to, we took family trip. We're going to go, see the caves and, do some of the fun stuff down in Kentucky. And it rained the whole event. It was like Saturday event. Everybody's trying to grill. And, we've got a tent and we're showing off product and stuff. And it just rained the whole time. And the U.S. Army recruiters were just across the way from us. And they left before we did. So we outlasted those guys. But that's just a good, fun story along the way. And then, we've basically built it into, now we go to Big Green Egg festivals where they're, grilling and showing off products. And one of our favorite trips, we did a trip, there was the Toronto Egg Fest. So we drove and we took our mountain bikes and, we're showing off product at the Toronto Egg Fest. And then we went up through Vermont, went mountain biking in Stowe, Vermont, headed on over to Boston, did the Boston tour, saw a few stores in the Boston area that we had, came down through New York and New Jersey, saw some stores there, just, basically made a whole trip out of this and, kind of teaching the boys about being an entrepreneur and living the life and being able to, enjoy time while you're working the business. And, so that's just one kind of small example. I had a really good one out west too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, we were talking about, actually, Chad and I were at a conference recently and we were having a fun conversation over a glass of bourbon. And we were talking about, what was the moment that you felt most alive? And then also, has there been a moment where you maybe cheated death or maybe you felt like you were almost dying? And maybe you give us the Cliff Notes version of the most alive moment. I thought that was a great story.
Yeah, we did a trip out west to Seattle and then up through Vancouver into Whistler, British Columbia. And as I had mentioned, we lived out in Seattle and fell in love with the mountains and snowboarding and everything. And since then, we've trained or taught our boys to snowboard and love the mountains as well. And so now they're currently 17 and 15. And at the time of this, they were 15 and 13. And so on the fifth day up at Whistler, British Columbia, we just got dumped on with snow. We had a foot of fresh snow. We're riding in, bottomless turns and just having a great time with our friends Eric and Laura out there. And Dylan and I, my oldest, we're riding down the mountain. We're doing this peak to creek run. And it's the peak of Whistler down to the base. It's like 5,000 vertical feet. It could take you 45 minutes or so. So we did it one time. We're just, having the times of our life. We're really enjoying it and everything. And the second time down, we're about halfway down and, we're just covered in snow and having a blast. And I catch up to Dylan because he's gotten so good. I'm like having a hard time keeping up with him. And I'm like, Dylan, how you doing? He's like, Dad, I'm just trying to survive. It was just the best. I'll never forget it. It was so much fun.
That's awesome, man. Those are the moments you live for. And, that's why we do what we do, is to live that life and to give yourself options to have those type of moments. And I appreciate you sharing that. It's so fun to hear that. But, as far as, yourself, and as your journey continues here, as you're continuing to raise the bar in your own life, I'd be curious to know, how are you still investing in yourself today? You mentioned how you kind of got a glimpse into personal growth through Tony Robbins conferences and things like that, but how are you continuing to invest in your own growth today?
Yeah. So we still are working with Trevor, basically weekly. So he's our business advisor, business coach, life coach. He's the guy outside of our little environment that ask the tough questions. What else are you thinking about? How are you keeping your mindset straight?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a key investment in everything we do. I kind of look at him in our situation as almost the CEO of our business, and kind of guiding us and helping us out along the way and stuff like that. The other piece is, getting out with great positive people like Tyler. I just in the past year got into investing in real estate, and as kind of diversifying, what we're doing with investments and things like that. But then daily reading, and meditation. That's a big thing for me, man. If I miss my meditation for a day, that's a tough day. So
yeah,
I truly do appreciate that. The other big thing is keeping a daily gratitude journal is something that I do personally, just to ground myself, especially in these crazy times that we've got going on now. We've got to keep it up front of what's absolutely positive in our lives. So yeah, those are some great things that I try to keep at my forefront daily.
That's awesome. There's a lot of things there that I want to dive slightly deeper into. Number one, I guess, I know I asked about investing yourself, and you mentioned some great things there. I want to talk a little bit about what you saw into real estate. But first, before I do that, let's talk a little bit about meditation and why that's such an important role in your life, and maybe walk us through some practical steps of how do you meditate? What does that look like for you?
Yeah. So this is something that, we, Tracy and I had gotten into, back when we first got introduced to Tony, and I tried some different things here and there, guided meditation and stuff like that. It's all been good, for me. I think anytime, doesn't matter what you do, anytime you just sit down, shut up, turn everything off, and just chill, it's good for us.
Yeah.
And so actually I think it was the end of last summer, I was kind of looking for something else, something for the boys, something for Tracy and I too. And I stumbled upon, I think actually through a Joe Rogan podcast, I heard somebody talking about transcendental meditation, and I heard somebody else talking about it too. I'm like, all right, there's 2 points. Let's check this out. And so we actually had a trainer come to our house and train us on transcendental meditation. So now this is something that we do daily. The boys are on and off, they're young, but if I miss it, I'm like, I'm out of sorts. And it's a 20-minute meditation. It's different. You can't have people explain it to you. This one has to be taught. You're taught a mantra, and I remember on the Rogan show, the guys would go, tell me a mantra. Well, I can't, because then it gives you meaning, and I can't give that to you. So it's really a beautiful way to just calm down the mind. In ours, you kind of let thoughts come and go. You don't worry about it, and you move on to the next thing. And I've had some very, very calming experiences. And I've had some experiences where I come up with these great ideas, and I got to write notes through the meditation time. It's like, it's just that's the way it is. And for us, it works wonderfully. And I definitely recommend, any kind of quiet time. I know you what's yours? What's your typical meditation type?
No, this is great. It's a great conversation because I think there's so many different approaches, but for me, it's more of kind of a mindfulness practice. I meditate every morning for about 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. It depends. And it's really just listening, and it's, observing, being aware of what's going on in there, what's happening, because it's really interesting to separate yourself from your mind. It's like, I am not the mind. I am the observer of the mind. And so it takes a long time to really observe that and to really understand that. So I definitely see it as a practice, and one that I'm continuing to practice and learn. But, it's amazing what, sort of calm you can achieve in your life, and the more presence that you can achieve just through that continual practice. Of course correcting and realizing that, hey, my mind's telling me I got to do this, this, and this, or that I screwed up on this, this, and this, but I'm just the observer of the mind. That's not actually me who's saying that. I just think it's really fascinating.
Yeah. That's good stuff. Good stuff.
Absolutely. I appreciate you sharing that. So why did real estate seem interesting for you to become involved with financially as well?
Because I was paying a lot of freaking taxes, Tyler.
Okay. I understand. Those guys will get you.
So
this episode of Elevate is brought to you by CF Capital, a real estate investment firm formed by myself and my partner, Brian Flaherty, where we invest in multifamily real estate communities across the Southeast United States. If you'd like to learn more about our approach, our mission, our acquisition criteria, and how you can learn more about future opportunities, visit cfcapllc.com. Again, that's cfcapllc.com.
That was kind of the tipping point, right? Over the past few years, paying a lot of taxes. And I joke too, I may not be quick, but I'm really slow too. And our coach, Trevor, he's been like, his background is mostly in real estate and stuff like that. And then also helping people, but he's been telling us for years, oh, you should look at this. And I just hadn't done it. And finally last year, we're like, all right, we have to learn more about this and what we can do in real estate to offset, taxes, and just be smarter with our investing. And especially in these trying times, I mean, I'm pretty glad I'm in real estate these days, in a nice stable market. And there's uncertainty everywhere. Sure. But people consistently need a place to live, and we can improve the properties and help them out. That's a better prospect. So that's kind of how we got kicked into getting into some real estate investments. So yeah.
No, that's awesome. Yeah. I think it's, I just had a conversation with someone else, earlier today, actually, and we were talking about the tax benefits, and it's always a great reminder that we don't want to, let the deal just be driven by tax benefits, but it is amazing what the IRS sort of encourages you to do through real estate and through that tax code. So, a great book on that is Tax-Free Wealth by Tom Wheelwright. If you haven't read that one, there it is. Look at that. Not planned at all.
I knew you were going to ask questions about books, and that one kicked my butt.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, talk to me, real quick before we get into our rapid fire section. I'd love to know, as someone who's continually growing yourself, is there anything substantial that you've changed your mind about over the past few years? It's a tough question, I know. So I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I'm just curious.
Something that I've changed my mind about over the past few years. I think.
Could be philosophically.
Okay, so it kind of philosophical. When we got into this, I pretty much, by got onto it, I mean the business and starting the business. I pretty much preached what we're doing to everybody, saying, "What's your idea? You got to go do it." Blah blah blah. It's everybody should be doing something, and just off the cuff, it's not for everybody. I mean, there's people that are absolutely happy and thrive in their 9-to-5 jobs. And, there's people that, just want to be investors. There's people that want to be business owners, and it's not for everybody. Whereas I think everybody should look differently at things. And, I've got close family. One of the things I learned in the network marketing business is it's not for everybody. You got to love them where they're at, right? And you just got to move on. If they don't believe in your investing philosophies or whatever like that, or your view of the world, you got to love them where they're at. So I think the fundamental thing that I've learned is it's just not for everybody. You got to love them where they're at and move on.
That's awesome. Well, it's a good mantra for us all, not to take the mantras from our transcendental meditation conversation, but, love them where they're at. Not everyone is just like us, but we have the opportunity to, impact them still positively in so many different ways. And also there's still a place in our life for people that may not be exactly the way that we are. So what a great,
I mean, further to that too, though, the tagline from our business is shake that ash and light that fire. That's not just about starting up a grill.
Right.
It can also be about getting off the couch and doing something with that idea you've had. So,
that's
however,
awesome.
There's a lot of people that are very comfortable on the couch. but I really think, sharing our story with how we've built the business and have been smart about it, didn't, over leverage ourselves or get huge bank loans or something to that effect. I think that can resonate with a lot of folks that, hey, I do have this idea. I could start small. I could start with a super simple web page, or selling something on Facebook or something on Etsy, or who knows, do something.
Wow. That's awesome.
An option.
Yeah. And anybody can do it, right? You don't have to be this like all-knowing individual like Chad, perhaps. No, I'm kidding. I know that obviously you figured it out.
Yourself. You got to surround yourself, man. You know that.
Yeah.
We got good people. Obviously Tracy's key, but we've got Trevor, we've got, folks that help us with marketing and design and stuff like that. And it's a fun journey.
Yeah. And you're obviously feeding your own mind. You're feeding your own growth. You're contributing to others. You've got your love, you're having a good time. And I love the mission of, shake that ash and light that fire. It's not just about the product's use. It's about, hey, look, anything's possible. Just get up and move and make something happen. So that's super inspiring. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
With that said, I want to transition into our rapid fire section. We call it the Rare Air Questionnaire. And we're continuing to scale the mountaintops. We're going to continue to push the limits. We may not be able to breathe, but we are going to keep going anyway. And with that said, I'd love to know, what are 2 or 3 of the most impactful books that you've ever read? Well,
we talked about earlier, so Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yep.
That's huge. Probably don't need to say that again in here. But then this one, Tax-Free Wealth.
I did not know that he was going to have that, honestly. That's awesome. That is awesome.
I finally got that one and was reading it, and I joked that that's the best tax book I've ever read.
It is so good.
The only one. It's the only one.
You wouldn't think a tax book would be enjoyable, but it's very insightful.
Yeah. So, and then the other one is this book by Anthony DeMello, Awareness, which I stumbled onto this one through Tim Ferriss, and also in the back of Kiyosaki's book Fake, he talks about this book Awareness, and I'm actually on it, reading it my second time.
Wow.
Like you were talking about before of, it's not me, who was I, who was me, and thinking outside of yourself and looking and say, how am I responding to this situation? That's what I probably got to read this about 4, 5, 10 times.
Wow.
but yeah, it's a great read. There's awesome stuff in here. I love sharing with my boys. Yeah, it's a fantastic read.
That's awesome. We'll put a link in the show notes to all 3 books there. But I've heard about Awareness, the book itself, and I definitely am interested to dive in.
You'll enjoy it. We'll have a conversation over a bourbon some other day about that one.
That sounds fantastic, my friend. I love it. I love
Absolutely.
it. So outside of what we talked about today, what's the biggest way that you would say you elevate your life on a daily basis?
I think the meditation thing is huge. I try to exercise daily and do that stuff, but just calming down, starting my day off right. And even if I have a busy morning and I skip it, I come back to it, lunchtime or in the afternoon and get her done. And I think that's absolutely critical in my world.
That's awesome. Love that. It may not work for everyone, but it certainly works for you. It works for me. It works for many others, but that's awesome.
Yeah.
What's the biggest way that you elevate others around you?
I like to have fun. I
know that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So whether it's being creative and how we're doing a project around the house, or, I took on a project this winter to build a mountain bike trail or a snow bike trail in our area, getting people involved, having fun with that. That's, cooking. We just, I try to keep it real and provide for folks and see what we can do.
Well, that's one thing you definitely never forget to do is have fun. And it's something that we all need to make sure that we don't forget to do is have fun. And I have to tell you, this has been an absolutely fun conversation. I've had an absolute blast, but is there any parting thoughts or words of wisdom that you'd share with Elevate Nation?
I'd say get out there and shake that ash and light that fire, baby.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And just enjoy life with all the chaos that we have going on. Embrace the ones closest to you. And right now we got some time to share some time with them close to us.
Yeah.
And make it fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the way that I see it is, light that fire. It's like what lights up your own fire, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the passion? What curiosity can you follow to find that? If you don't know what that is now, go chase that and have fun at the same time and enjoy the small moments, enjoy, the small things in your life because, they stack up to become the big things. And man, this has been awesome, Chad. I really, really appreciate you taking time to be on the show today. Tell the listeners how they can learn more about your business, about you, how they can stay engaged with you, all that good stuff.
Yeah, our website is kickashbasket.com. That's where you can find out about our product, a little bit more of the story of what we've got going on. And then anybody contact me. It's just Chad at kickashbasket.com. Anybody wants to visit about starting a business, bounce some ideas, learn about our business, touch on real estate. I don't care. I'm an open book. Let's visit. It's fun.
That's awesome. We will put a link in the show notes. Not a link, but we'll put the contact information there in the show notes. So thank you for sharing that. And be on the lookout, man. Elevate Nation's coming your way. And then we'll definitely put a link in the show notes to your business, to Kick Ash Basket, so they can learn more about that. But what an inspiring journey that you've had so far, and really excited to see what's next for you and continue to, build a friendship together. And I just want to thank you again for being here. And I want to thank Elevate Nation as well for tuning in. I want to encourage you to re-listen to this show because really what we talked about is the actual story of how Chad made it and how he created and designed his life now that he continues to live a life without limits and continues to grow amidst all the chaos and all the craziness that's happening in the world. He's still thriving, and we all have the opportunity to do the same. And so, I would certainly encourage you to share this with a friend. Take a screenshot and tag, Chad, tag myself, tag Elevate Podcast, and share this with someone else because you know what? The teacher is who learns the most. Obviously put this in front of someone else, but have a discussion about it. That's how you really anchor in your own understanding. What was it that really sparked your own curiosity, your own creativity? And beyond that, you've got to take massive action. What fire do you need to light within your own soul, within your own heart, within everything that you're doing, and make it happen? So with that said, thank you so much for tuning in. And Chad, thanks again for being on the show.
Thanks for having me on the show, Tyler. It's awesome. Love talking with you, man.
Absolutely. Elevate Nation, we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Elevate. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to elevate your results by taking immediate action on what you learned. For more, visit elevatepod.com.